The first Week 7 injury reports are out, and there's a lot going on at the quarterback position. My name is Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points Morning Lineup for Thursday, October 19th, 2023. Any stats you hear in this program will be from the Fantasy Points data suite, which is discounted 75% for the 2023 NFL season, and any content package at fantasypoints.com is already discounted 50% because, we're halfway through the fantasy football season. And you can get another 25% on top of that with code GURRIFIC25. That's GURRIFIC 25. You will be glad you did. Maybe you have a lot of injuries and you need our waiver wire article, our trade for, trade away article. Those articles will help you, as will our projections. Now let's start at the quarterback position where the Thursday night game could be affected. Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence is listed as questionable with a knee injury. Now, Lawrence has been optimistic all week about his status, but the Jags also signed quarterback Nathan Rourke to their 53-man roster, giving them some insurance in the event Lawrence can't play on Thursday night against the Saints. We should know fairly early on Thursday morning, heck, maybe even by the time you're watching this, if Lawrence will play against New Orleans. Now, I'm personally downgrading him a few spots to a low-end quarterback 1. Remember, 6 teams are on bye this week, and there are a lot of quarterback injuries, and I expect the Jags to continue to lean on Travis Etienne. If Lawrence can't go, C.J. Beathard would start. Let's continue with some bad quarterback news. Unfortunately, as anticipated, Colts rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson will miss the rest of the season after choosing to undergo shoulder surgery. This is the statement from Colts owner Jim Irsay. After consultation with our medical staff, Anthony and those close to him, it has been determined that he will undergo surgery to repair his injured shoulder, which will end his season. Anthony is a competitor, and we know how difficult and disappointing this is for him and our team. We collected several medical opinions, and we felt this was the best course of action for his long-term health. We anticipate a full recovery, and there is no doubt Anthony has a promising future. Obviously, the Colts are very intimately familiar with quarterback injuries. Constant injuries, constant rehabbing, basically forced Andrew Luck into retirement. So this may be the conservative option for the Colts, but it certainly makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, it feels just like a lost season for Richardson, and he's essentially going to be a rookie next season. But Jim Irsay did at least give us a little bit of levity here in the situation. Now, per Jory Epstein of Yahoo Sports, this quote is wild. Irsay gave a quote only Irsay could give. Quote, like John Landau said about Bruce Springsteen back in 1974, I've seen the future of rock and roll, and his name is Bruce Springsteen. Well, I've seen the future of the NFL, and his name is Anthony Richardson, and I believe it. Now, in what little sample we have of Richardson's career, that's kind of true. He was first in fantasy points per 4 quarters played this year. So, Anthony, get well soon. In the interim, Gardner Minshew will pepper the Colts with low ADOT targets, which will help Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. Also at quarterback, and actually on the other side of the ledger in that Browns-Colts matchup this weekend, the Browns' Deshaun Watson confirmed on Wednesday he has micro tears, which is another word for a strain, in his rotator cuff. He didn't practice on Wednesday, and it's not looking exactly promising for Week 7. Now, here's what Watson said. Quote, I'm not going to put the team in jeopardy if I can't do certain things. It's not so much the pain. It's more so if I can throw the football. P.J. Walker couldn't really throw the football last week and nearly gave the game away against the 49ers. But if Watson can't go, we presume P.J. Walker would likely start against the Colts. Expect Cleveland to run the football. Also not practicing on Wednesday was the Raiders' Jimmy Garoppolo with a back injury. Not as severe as they thought per coach Josh McDaniels. It could be Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer. Josh McDaniels hasn't announced which quarterback would start against the Bears if Jimmy G can't play as expected. And it will be in a likely backup quarterback battle because Justin Fields, he didn't practice either with his thumb injury. He is doubtful to play per coach Matt Eberflus. UDFA rookie Tyson Bagent would start in Fields' spot as expected. Returning to practice, however, was the Giants' Daniel Jones with his neck injury, giving him a chance to, unfortunately, be thrown to the Wolves against the Commanders this weekend. I thought Tyrod Taylor played pretty well against the Bills last week, and I wonder if that's because he really just didn't have an opportunity to get as shell-shocked as Danny Jones has been behind that awful Giants offensive line, which continues to have massive injury problems. If Danny Jones plays, it's a brutal matchup for him, as most are against any NFL defense right now. And in the best news at the quarterback position on Wednesday was the return of the Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. Murray tore his ACL last year, and now his window to be activated from injured reserve has been activated. Per the Arizona Football Daily's very reliable Mike Jurecki, the Cardinals' plan for Murray is to practice him this week and next, with Murray possibly returning to the fold in NFL action in Week 8 against the Ravens. I picked him up in a bunch of leagues on Wednesday, and he's still available in around 70% of Yahoo leagues. Anywhere where you need a quarterback, Murray is worth a stash, and he's actually still on IR, so you can even stash him on IR if he's out there on the waiver wire. That's good news for the Cardinals because Josh Dobbs' play has really slipped. After throwing no interceptions and losing just 2 fumbles through the first 4 games of the season combined, Dobbs has thrown 3 picks and lost 2 more fumbles in Arizona's last 2 games alone. He's completed just 49.3% of his passes the last 2 weeks, and the Cards failed to get into the end zone in Week 6 against the Rams, their first game without their best offensive player, running back James Conner. Now let's hit some running back injuries. The Lions' David Montgomery is expected to miss some time per coach Dan Campbell with his rib injury. Now on Wednesday, the Lions held a walkthrough, which means an estimated practice report, but Jahmyr Gibbs, who's missed the last 2 games with a hamstring injury, was listed as a limited participant, meaning he's got a shot to go this weekend. That's important because Craig Reynolds, who was one of the hot waiver wire pickups of the week, was listed as a DNP, did not practice, with toe and hamstring injuries. Now, the Lions can be very weird with their injury report, as we've seen throughout the last couple years, but if Reynolds couldn't play, obviously they're going to have to work somebody in with Gibbs. I can't imagine they'd give Gibbs 25 touches coming off a hamstring injury. Devine Ozigbo got some snaps last week. He's on the Lions practice squad. So there's a name if you are digging really deep, and I mean really deep this week. The Rams' Kyren Williams is week to week, per coach Sean McVay, with an ankle injury. He's not expected to play this week, and the Rams also put Ronnie Rivers, Kyren Williams' primary backup, on injured reserve. So it'll be rookie Zach Evans with vets Myles Gaskin and Royce Freeman also on the active roster, plus old friend Darrell Henderson signed to the practice squad this week. Now, I think Evans, the rookie, is the best bet, but he's not accomplished as a receiver, and in this really, really brutal matchup against the Steelers defense, it's possible this whole backfield resembles the Amari DiMercado and Arizona disaster last week when he led them in snaps in that backfield but got just 3 touches. It's possible Sean McVay, who is notoriously fickle with his running backs, decides that he is going to just ride some sort of hot hand or try to find a hot hand. Are you using any of these Rams running backs? If so, comment below. Which one do you feel best about? I don't know if I feel great about any of them following what happened with the DiMercado mess last week. Now, in some quick hits, Aaron Jones is back for the Packers in practice, and it looks like he's going to play this weekend in Week 7, barring setback. It also looks good for Jeff Wilson, who is ready to go per Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel. He is going to split the work behind Raheem Mostert this week with the Eagles with Salvon Ahmed, who got a garbage time touchdown last week for the Dolphins. And the Saints' Jamal Williams, remember him? He's questionable to return Thursday night from his hamstring injury, but I wouldn't expect him to have much work, if at all, because Kendre Miller's looked pretty decent when he's gotten an opportunity behind Alvin Kamara. Now, the Bills' Damian Harris, who of course had that scary neck injury on Sunday night and was transported off the field into the hospital, he didn't practice, but he's otherwise doing about as well as you can expect. I wouldn't expect him to play this week, though. Also not practicing were the Browns' Kareem Hunt with a thigh injury. The Bears' Rashawn Johnson, who has not yet cleared concussion protocol. This is obviously a huge concern given the nature of concussions. And at wide receiver, we have a couple of transactions to talk about. On Wednesday, the Chiefs traded for old friend Mecole Hardman, per Adam Schefter of ESPN. It's Hardman and a 2025 7th-round pick coming from the Jets, with a 2025 6th-round pick going to the Jets. So essentially a free trade, just a minor upgrade. The Chiefs are 5th in the NFL in yards per play at 5.7, which, 5th in the NFL is objectively good. But because this is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, it's hard not to be disappointed by that. The last time the Chiefs finished below 6.0 yards per play came in 2016, the year before Mahomes was drafted, and 2 years before he took the reins from Alex Smith under center. You know the Chiefs aren't happy with those numbers either, given they just traded for Hardman after letting him walk in free agency. Now, the hope from me, and I don't think it will, but it's the hope, that Hardman doesn't lead to the Chiefs playing Rashee Rice less. They can't afford to do that. He's been their best wide receiver. Hardman was their predominant slot receiver last year, running 50.5% of his routes from the slot per Fantasy Points data, as Rashee Rice is this year at 64.1%. But our guy Chris Wecht at Fantasy Points Data says there is no reason to think Rice can't play on the outside. He is second to only Travis Kelce in yards per route run from the perimeter. I would hope he gets more perimeter routes with Hardman coming to town. Now, what I think this does signal is that the Chiefs are clearly unhappy with the receiver trio of Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who are three of the worst wide receivers in the NFL from yards per route run standpoint. The Eagles signed Julio Jones, of all people, to a one-year deal. Julio had never officially retired, and apparently the Eagles figured that out because they signed him. Now, this is obviously a move that I doubt is going to be fantasy relevant, but in the deepest of leagues, if you think that Eagle offense is going to pick up some juice, and, kind of just like the Chiefs offense, it's still top 10 in yards per play. It's just, it doesn't look as easy as it did last year, so people are panicking, and last week there was seemingly reason to panic. But the Eagles did need some depth at receiver behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Quez Watkins is on IR with a hamstring injury, and Olamide Zaccheaus is a fine number 3 receiver, but you can probably do better. Now, Julio said his, quote, mindset is to dominate, even though Coach Nick Sirianni said Julio is going to contribute in a part-time role, which really is what he is at this point. It's possible he has a big game here or there, but I wouldn't be counting on it. Nonetheless, it is notable that Devontae Smith did not practice on Wednesday with a hamstring injury. It's an injury we didn't know about Sunday, so it's possible that something just tightened up for him, and it was a walkthrough, so it was just an estimation, but it is something to monitor going forward. Thanks for joining me for a Thursday edition of the Fantasy Points Morning Lineup. Now remember to subscribe to the channel for more fantasy football content. Destroy the like button. Just pound it. And comment if you enjoyed this video. You can catch me over at fantasypoints.com in our subscriber Discord. Talk to you on Saturday, where we'll have pretty important updates on the San Francisco 49ers from that Monday night game. Thanks, everybody.